Welcome to Veterans in Transition, where we promote the veteran community. We travel around the region highlighting veteran-related news, issues, and events. The Purple Heart is awarded to those who are injured or killed on the battlefield. Each year, Purple Heart Chapter 2222 lay a wreath at Mount Vernon to honor George Washington. Here are a few recipients sharing their story.
When I was wounded, it was an incident in Hobo Woods. First thing we heard, it was the thump, because you can hear that, and that's when you hear that. You heard the thump, and everybody hit the ground. And then all of a sudden, the mortars started dropping. And when they were dropping, I happened to raise up, and I looked, and I could see where they were hitting, and something in my mind, for some reason, said, "You're gonna get hit." And I just covered my face, and when the next round, it slammed in close to me, and shrapnel hit me all in my, almost in my neck, right in that part. And my wound wasn't sufficient that much for me to go in. They treated me, later on that night when the shelling had stopped, they treated me, and they didn't send me in, but like I said, that few of the other guys, some of them were killed with that mortar, and some of the ones that were wounded pretty bad, they went in, but they kept me out there. So they just patched me up, and I stayed with the company. So the only thing about it, just to show you the kind of, I guess the companionship and love the fellas have for each other. I couldn't carry my rucksack because, so they carried my rucksack, took turns carrying my rucksack. The only thing I carried was my weapon. I carried it. And they just, because I couldn't put the straps on my shoulder.
On September 29th, another Ford observer couldn't make his patrol, so I took his patrol for him. And that was the night the point man set off a booby trap, which got a number of us. The next night, while I was safe in the hospital, the patrol I would have been on got wiped out. I was just lucky. In the wrong place at the right time, the right place at the wrong time, one or the other. I spent a few nights in the hospital, and they put me on light duty, so being as I was on light duty, they sent me to Japan on R&R. When I got back from Japan, I went right back into the field, and just about 2 weeks after that, wound up in the Battle of Dao Chiang, which a lot of us called Operation Attleboro. And in that operation, we had 12 different companies involved, from the 25th Division, the 1st Division. I happened to be with C Company, 2nd 27th, and we got isolated and pinned down, and we were pinned down overnight. Then the following day, A Company tried to get through to us, and they couldn't do it, but 2 people in that battle were awarded the Medal of Honor. One of them had been my platoon leader when we went to Vietnam. That was Captain Foley. Finally, 2 companies from Big Red 1 came through from a different direction, and they got us out. Later on, when they were interviewing Major McCoy, they asked, why didn't that company just pull out? He said, well, actually they couldn't. They didn't have enough guys to carry out the wounded.
Christmas Day, 1966, at 12 o'clock, Christmas night. Soon as ceasefire went off, Charlie hit us. He hit us, and we lost quite a few guys, because we had the gun section right there with us. Then we had infantry platoons around us. I never forget, we had this round, always had this one round with us called a beehive. And the beehive is a round, you set the fuse. When you set the fuse on it, when it come out the tube of the gun, it goes off. So my Sergeant Strickland, that was our chief of section, he said, get the beehive. So we got the beehive, and we set that thing, and when it went off, after that, that next day we had all the guys' bodies laying around, and that's when I really know what 2 dog tags was for. We put one in the guy's mouth and get the other one to the pilot and ship him out of there. So A lot of guys lost their lives. I just got hit with a mortar.
The first time was Tet. The Tet offensive was in January, where the Viet Cong's numbers celebrate the Lunar New Year. And a ceasefire had been given and agreed to by both sides. However, that fell through, and we ended up doing Tet. It's when the North Vietnamese launched the largest attack ever in South Vietnam during the 1968 era, and that was the big Tet offenses, and that's where I was initially wounded. I was shot, my wrist was torn, my left wrist was torn off. I was medevaced back to the hospital, stayed there for a little while because I couldn't stand somebody else providing protection for me. So after they cleared me to walk around, I went back to the field. I was wounded the second time, was shot in the back, and the third time I got shrapnel in the head. But each occasion, you was in the midst of fire, dealing with the enemy, in some cases hand to hand. A lot of times you didn't even realize you was wounded until things sort of subsided and you took inventory as to what was going on.
I was deployed with the 547 to Iraq. Over there, I was in a transportation unit. We went from one side of Iraq to the other side of Iraq. In a little town called Fallujah, I got hit with an IED fragment, half an inch from the left eye. There's no marks or anything. It just happened. Well, 19 soldiers got injured with Purple Hearts, and we lost about 24 vehicles. Anytime you go to war, you're always scared. Whether it's for a minute or for 20 minutes or whatever, you're always scared. We lost one soldier that I trained and took him under my wing, so I felt that personally. Do I recommend war for anybody? No. Am I proud to be a part of it? Yes, because I supported our country. I'd like to thank that all my veterans who have served before me, who are serving now, thank them for their service.
My second tour in 1970 to 71 when I was wounded. We had been chopped out into the thick of the jungle. We landed, sent out patrols to 360 degrees to make sure that we were safe before we sat down and ate lunch. As we were eating lunch, a Viet Cong crawled up with an RPG and hit my RTO, direct hit with the RPG. It bounced off of him after it killed him, hit a tree, and I was wounded from that shrapnel. And we were only about 6 feet apart. The hardest thing was, after we had called the chopper, is to take this body and put it in a bag and try to find a LZ for the chopper to come in to haul him out. He could not land, so we had to haul him out. They had to lift him up from the ground into the helicopter. We still had our mission to perform, so we stayed out for another 14 days to perform the mission. We had no other contact at that time. However, I was also meted back out because I was wounded also. The hardest thing, I think, in combat is the wounds that you do not see. Many people come back from combat, including myself. Although I was wounded physically, but inside, I was more wounded than with the shrapnel. On August the 7th, every year, we do go to George Washington tomb. George Washington was the father of the Purple Heart. He instituted the Badge of Merit. However, in 1932, General Douglas MacArthur is the one who had the Purple Heart that we wear now, designed in 1932. And we celebrated 90 years of that now. But every year on August the 7th, we lay a wreath at George Washington tomb, celebrating him as the father of the Purple Heart, because he's the one that designed the Badge of Merit. He wanted to have something to give the soldiers that were outstanding in combat during that time. Recently, we laid one at not at the tomb, but at the Purple Heart Trail because they're doing maintenance on George Washington tomb.
That's all for this edition of Veterans in Transition. We ask that you like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you have a story to tell, reach out to us at info@vetsintransition.com. And remember, stay on purpose and stay relevant. Until next time.